Have you ever done something so full of love and walked straight into something that broke you? Like, you were carrying flowers and you didn't even see the cliff. That is exactly what happened to Aria. And honestly, when I first heard this story, I had to sit with it for a moment. Because it's not just a story about a bad boyfriend or a scary man in a fancy club. It's a story about a girl who was so full of love, so genuinely good, that life decided to test her in the cruelest way possible. And somehow, she came out the other side still herself. Aria was 20 years old. She lived in a small rental apartment with her best friend, Nora. She had been working at a bakery for 3 years. She was good at backing where people walked in just to smell what she was making. She had a boyfriend named Luca. She truly loved him. The way you love someone when you're 20 and you don't know yet what that word can cost you. The day she finished her degree, she didn't throw a party. She didn't post about it. She went to the kitchen and baked him a small strawberry cake. That was how Aria celebrated she made something beautiful for someone else. Nora watched her from the doorway. "You're smiling too much," she said. "It's embarrassing." But she was smiling too. Aria called Luca, and he did not answer. She called him again. She stood there in her pretty dress, the cake in a box, and she just waited. Nora, being Nora, wasn't about to let her wait forever. She said, "Go to the club. You know the name, right? Just go and give him surprise." Luca had never once invited Aria to that club. Not once in the entire time they had been together. But she remembered the name, and she had $20 in her pocket, a box of cake, and a smile that hadn't left her face since morning. She got a ride. The moment she stepped through that door, something shifted. The music was loud, people were dancing and pressed against each other, drinks in their hands, and the air smelled like cigarettes and expensive perfume and something Aria couldn't name. She held her cake box a little tighter. This kind of place was not habitual. People noticed her immediately. She went to the bartender and asked, "Hello, I'm looking for Luca. Do you know him? He works here?" The bartender looked her up and down with a stare that made her skin crawl. A few people started laughing at her, at the fact that she was standing there in her nice dress with a box like she was attending a birthday party instead of a gambling club. Someone said her dress was wrong for this place. Someone else said she should just hire a date for the night. Mean things, lazy things, the kind of things people say when they want to feel bigger. Aria didn't cry. She held herself together and asked the bartender again where Luca was. Her voice was steady. And then a woman shouted from across the room, laughing like it was the funniest thing she had ever seen. "You're looking for him? He's upstairs, baby girl, caught by the hottest gambler in the building. I don't think he's going to be tasting your cake tonight." Aria went upstairs. 4 guards were standing outside a door. She walked past them, or maybe they let her through. I'm not sure she even thought about it. She pushed the door open. There was a man sitting on a sofa, completely calm in a dark suit. His arms resting easy. His name was Damien Voss, but she didn't know that yet. And there was Luca sitting across from him. He was shaking. "Please, just give me more time. I'll get the money, I swear. Just a little more time, please." The man on the sofa tilted his head. "You've said that exact thing every single time. Ah, I'm bored. Rephrase this into something else." Aria stood in the doorway, and in about 30 seconds, her entire understanding of Luca collapsed. All those times he asked her for money. His mother is sick, the bills, an emergency, always something. She had given him what she could because she loved him, and she believed him. Every single time, she believed him. And it was all for this. A gambling debt. A big one. And he had been drowning in it for who knows how long while she baked him cakes and answered his calls and thought they had a future together. She couldn't breathe. The air was becoming more and more thick for her. Her eyes were becoming faint. A small noise came when the cake box fell from her hands. Luca turned and saw her. And instead of shame, his face went cold. "What are you doing here? How dare you come here?" His voice was shaking, but it was angry. She started crying. She couldn't help it. It was too much at once. Damien hadn't moved. He was watching the whole thing with this quiet, focused attention, like he was reading a book he hadn't expected to find interesting. Luca stood up. He took a step toward Aria, and his hand came up when Damien stood. He crossed the room and hit Luca once. Luca sat back down. Then Damien looked at Aria. He picked up the cake box from where it had fallen, opened it, and he tried a piece. There was a pause. "She can't pay your debt," he said to Luca, and his voice was perfectly even. "But she can work it off. She stays with me until it's cleared." Luca said without missing a beat, "Fine, I have no issue with that." Aria heard those words from the man she had loved. He has no issue with that? Like she was a piece of furniture being moved from one room to another. She fainted, and when she woke up, she was in an expensive room she didn't recognize. For a moment, she thought maybe it was a dream. Then she remembered everything, and it definitely was not. She threw the door open, sprinted down a hallway, found the living room, and there was Damien, standing in the middle of it, eating her cake off a plate like he was just waiting for her to come out. "Where are you going?" he said. "Home. I'm going home right now." He shook his head. "You can't leave without my permission. You will stay here, you keep me company, and when the debt is cleared, you go. That's all." She cried. She argued. She told him he couldn't do this. He didn't raise his voice once. "Now look, I want to be honest with you all for a second. I know what you might be thinking, but I'm telling you what happened, and what happened next is important." He didn't touch her. He didn't threaten her. He gave her a room and left her alone. And the one thing that kept Aria from falling apart completely was the kitchen. She found it on the second day, and she just started baking. It was the only thing she could do. The housekeeper didn't know what to say. Damien said nothing. But every single thing Aria put out of that kitchen disappeared. She did not know where that cake went. Meanwhile, Nora was losing her mind. Aria managed one short phone call and told her she was safe but couldn't leave. Nora didn't accept that. She filed a police report, and the police came to the mansion. They didn't help her. They nodded at Damien's men and took Nora in for questioning instead. When Aria found out, something inside her went very quiet. She started watching the exits. One day, there was a party. Damien told her she was coming. She wore a red gown she hated because she didn't have a choice. She stood next to him all night and looked at nothing and smiled at no one. At one point, Damien said quietly, "You're not invisible, you know. People can see you making yourself invisible." She didn't respond, but something in her chest moved. She ran that same night, took her heels off at the door, lifted the gown, ran into the dark street alone with nothing, no phone, no money, no plan, just her legs and the night air. She was just running, her breath went heavy, her throat went dry, eyes were going blank, but she had to keep running. This was the only choice she had. She did not know for how much time she was running, maybe for 5 minutes or more. A car pulled up near her. 2 men came out of the car, and she screamed. And then she was gone again. But not back to Damien, to someone else entirely. Zane Holt was Damien's rival. The kind of man who collected things just to hurt the people who cared about them. When Damien was told she had run, something shifted in his face. The people who worked for him noticed it. He got still in a different way, a way that meant something was already decided. And within an hour, his men found out it was Zane. He moved that night. And here's what I think. He already knew that he loved her. He had known for a while. He just hadn't let himself say it out loud. Zane thought Aria would be afraid of him. But surprisingly, she wasn't. She sat in the room they put her in, and she asked questions, and she watched, and she was quiet in a way that unsettled him, because it was the same quality that had unsettled Damien. She simply could not be made small. She didn't know how. Damien came for her, After it was over, after Zane was handled and the room was empty, and it was just the two of them standing in a hallway that smelled like old smoke, Damien looked at her for a long moment. "You're free," he said. "The debt is done. It's on me." She looked at him. "You knew what he was going to do to me." He nodded. "And you still came?" He didn't answer that, but he didn't look away either. She said, "Just say it." And Damien, who never said anything he wasn't sure of, who had built an entire life on not needing anyone, said, "I don't want you to go. I haven't wanted you to go for a while. When I heard you ran away, it felt like entertainment for me because I knew I would catch you, but when I heard they kidnapped you, my heart was screaming. It was too painful for me to think they will touch you." He had spent years being completely in control of everything, standing there with his hands at his sides, finally saying the one thing he couldn't fix or buy or arrange. Nora was at the apartment when Aria came home. The kitchen smelled like sugar because Nora had been stress baking for 2 weeks straight and wasn't half bad at it. They sat on the floor and didn't say much for a while. Then Aria got up, washed her hands, and started making something. Not for Luca. Not for anyone in particular. Just because she loved it. Just because it was hers. A few days later, there was a knock at the door. Nora raised her eyebrows, and Aria opened it. She baked that cake with so much love, and it ended up in the hands of a man who, whether he knew it or not, needed someone like her more than he had ever needed anything. Sometimes the thing you make with love ends up exactly where it was supposed to go, even if it takes a long way. So I want to ask you, and I genuinely want to know what you think. If you were Aria, standing at that door at the end of this story, do you open it? Do you let someone in after everything they put you through, even if what you see in their eyes is real? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Before we close today, I want to bring in something a little different, because this story isn't just emotional, it's psychologically very real. Aria was what we call a highly empathetic person, and people like her are often targeted, not always intentionally, by people like Luca, who learned that her love had no conditions. He borrowed money, borrowed her peace, borrowed her trust. That pattern has a name. It's called emotional exploitation. And you know what the scariest part is? The victim rarely sees it because the love feels genuine on their side. When Aria fainted, that was her nervous system shutting down under acute emotional shock. Betrayal trauma, discovering that someone you deeply trusted was never who you thought, hits differently than regular heartbreak. It rewires how safe you feel in your own judgment. And Damien? He is what we see in people who grew up needing control to feel safe. Aria was the first person who didn't respond to his control with fear. That disrupted him. And disruption, in the right circumstances, is where change begins. In real life, healing starts when you stop blaming yourself for trusting the wrong person and start recognizing that your capacity to love was never the problem. This is Maddie, and this has been Reflections of True Life. Take care of yourselves out there.